The Associated Press reports that South Vietnamese President Thieu has declared his nation's invasion of Laos is still underway. Mr. Thieu made the statement today while telling troops on the northern front about a Saigon commando raid on North Vietnamese base in the Laotian Panhandle. Allied officers say between 200 and 300 government soldiers were airlifted into Laos for the operation by U.S. helicopters. The raid presumably will be a hit-and-run attack lasting 2 or 3 days. Mr. Thieu told his troops the Laotian campaign is still going on and the South Vietnamese army is still on the attack, despite the pullback of some units into Vietnam. South Vietnamese official claims the Laotian drive has been the biggest and most successful of the Vietnam War. The Military Assistance Command in Vietnam reports that in Military Region 1,
Kwang 26 at the 10th hole, where he missed the green and 3-putted from 5 feet. The front running Cootie birdied all 4 of the par 5 holes and the 2 other holes. He didn't have a single bogey, and he missed only 2 greens, but stayed par on both holes. 2 years ago, Cootie nearly won the Masters. He led with only 30 holes remaining, but he bogeyed all the holes and wound up 5th. He's had 2 victories during his 9 years on the tour, taking the 1964 Dallas Open and the 1969 Cleveland Open. Well, it would seem that the Baltimore Colts of the National Football League may soon ban their players from going to the Townsend, Maryland YMCA. Colts running back Tom Mattei has undergone an appendicitis operation in Baltimore's Mount Union Hospital. Matt thus joined teammate Johnny Unitas in the hospital. Unitas underwent surgery Wednesday for a severed Achilles tendon in his right heel. Both players are reported in good condition. Unitas and Mattei, or Matt if you prefer, were playing paddle tennis at the YMCA when the quarterback was injured. Colt running back Sam Peverlick has also apparently been hit by the Y whammy. He sprained an ankle playing basketball and is now hobbling around on crutches. Looking now in the National Hockey League Stanley Cup playoff resumes tonight with Boston at Montreal, New York at Toronto, Chicago at Philadelphia, and St. Louis at Minnesota. Each of the best-of-7 series is tied at 1 victory apiece, except for the Chicago-Philadelphia set, and that one the Blackhawks lead now 2-0. Appearances by millionaire Fort Morrissey and 1973-year-old champion Personality highlight today's thoroughbred racing program. Fort Morrissey, the 1970 Horse of the Year, held the field in the $125,000 San Juan Capistrano handicap at Santa Anita. Personality is entered in the $50,000 extended Excelsior handicap at Aqueduct. And New York City's long-delayed off-track betting started today. One guy waited in line more than 24 hours to make the first wager. Buck Gross, a 61-year-old retired postal worker from Brooklyn, had the distinction of making a wager before Mayor Lindsay. And Gross put down $2 on a horse in the first race at Roosevelt Raceway tonight. Mayor Lindsay also made a $2 bet at Roosevelt. He said he received his wife's permission to make the wager from his, what he calls, small allowance. The betting windows opened at Grand Central Terminal at 10:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. A couple of hours later, the lines in front of the 10 windows stretched 100 deep. Apparently, everyone in line agreed that this was the way it should be done. One person remarked, "This makes gambling as American as apple pie." Elsewhere in sports, the Milwaukee Bucks have won the opening game of their National Basketball Association's Western Conference Final Best-of-7 playoff series against the Los Angeles Lakers. The Bucks broke an opening close game in the 4th period and beat the Lakers 106-85 last night. Lou Alcindor, the Bucks' towering center, led all scorers with 32 points. In the Eastern Conference Final, the New York Knickerbockers took a 2-0 lead over injury-plagued Baltimore, trouncing the Bullets 107-88. Dick Barnett led the Knicks with 29 points. And in last night's only American Basketball Association playoff game, the Virginia Squires held off the New York Nets 127-124. That victory gave the Squires a 3-2 lead in their best-of-7 Eastern Division semifinal series. Mike Barrett had 30 points for Virginia, and Ray Scott and George Carter 28 each. The Nets' Rick Barry tallied 36, including 3 8-point field goals, a playoff record, by the way. In other sports news, the Philadelphia Phillies opened their new $45 million stadium today, beating the Montreal Expos. Former American League President Will Harrigan also died last night at the age of 86 in a nursing home in Evanston, Illinois. The Oakland Athletics traded outfielder Felipe Olu to the New York Yankees for pitcher Ron Klemenowski and Ron Gardner. Atlanta Braves outfielder Rico Party recovered from a knee injury. He has now suffered clotting in the knee. Fireballing Vita Blue of the Oakland Athletics had his bid for a possible strikeout record cut short by rain last night. Blue struck out 13 Kansas City batters in pitching the A's to a 5-0 victory over the Royals in a game called after 5 1/2 innings because of rain. Elsewhere in the American League, Baltimore's David Johnson, who had tied the game with a 3-run homer in the 6th, delivered the winning run with a grounder in the 8th as the Orioles defeated the Detroit Tigers 6-5. Pitch hitter Tom McCraw's 10th inning homer lifted the Washington Senators and Denny McLain to a 5-4 victory over the New York Yankees. The White Sox edged the Minnesota Twins 3-2 on Rich McKinney's run-scoring pitch single in the 9th. In the National League, Nate Colbert's 3-run double and 6-hit pitching by Danny Combs and Al Severinsen helped the San Diego Padres top the Los Angeles Dodgers 6-3. The Chicago Cubs blanked the Houston Astros 6-0 behind Milt Pappas' 3-hitter. Willie Sturgeon and Jackie Hernandez each drove in 2 runs as the Pittsburgh Pirates beat the Atlanta Braves 8-2. Well, a rookie came through big for the Cleveland Indians today. Wilmer Hodge singled 2 runs with 2 out in the 9th to lift the Cleveland Indians to a 3-2 victory over the Boston Red Sox. Hodge came into the game as a pinch hitter in the 8th inning, with the Indians trailing 2-0. He doubled and scored the first run on a single by John Lowenstein. Louis Aparicio and pitcher Sonny Siebert hit homers for the 2 Red Sox runs. We'll be back in just a moment with comments on the guys behind the big bats after this message.
The old saying, first impressions are lasting impressions, holds true everywhere, even in Vietnam. It's true your wardrobe is somewhat limited in style and sometimes sizes, but if you were at home, would you wear trousers with wrinkles in them, or too long or too short? Would you wear shirts with holes in them, or shoes all scuffed up and unpolished? Of course you wouldn't, because you would be concerned about the impression you would create, and so you should be. But you should also be concerned about the impression you make when wearing your military uniform. The way your uniform looks not only reflects personal pride, it represents the impression you give other people of the armed forces of the United States. Take pride in the way your uniform looks. Make your first impression a good one.
Well, the trouble with Dave McNally is that he seems to do nothing but win. That annoys the other clubs in the American League. It also bothers his critics who insist the Baltimore Oriole southpaw is, at his best, ordinary stuff on the ball. But as Eddie Arcado once remarked about a horse who won one race after another in unimpressive style, there are a lot of one after his name. In the last 3 seasons, McNally has won more games than any other pitcher in baseball. To be exact, 66. He won 24 last year, his contribution to the Baltimore pennant push, and he beat the Cincinnati Reds in the 3rd game of the World Series. He not only beat them, he hammered a grand slam home run, the first by a pitcher in the series. The cool Mr. McNally won his first game this season also, beating the Washington Senators 3-2. Dave treats the Senators like lame ducks. He's beaten them 13 of the last 14 times he's faced them, and his career record against them is 20-4. He also helped with his bat in the game the other day. Dave hit 2 singles, and one of them led to a Baltimore run. In spring training this year, Dave had some elbow trouble. Any kind of serious arm problem for the nifty lefty would raise storm signals over the Chesapeake. But he says the pain in his elbow is diminishing. As it does, the headaches from opposing teams in the American League will rise in direct ratio. But tonight marks the end of my tour with Channel 11, Da Nang. Normally, when leaving a radio or television station, I simply close the program with a thank you and good night. But tonight, I'd like to add that I was privileged to be with the first Marine crew that helped build the Da Nang station. That happened in October 1966. Probably one of the last Marines to leave the Vietnam network. Our ambition when building the station was to provide a bit of home to the thousands of servicemen in the then I Corps area. We like to think we accomplished that job. So speaking for the John McKays, the Rick Lillies, Roy Burnett's, Dan Deluskis, and the many, many other Leathernecks who made Channel 11 Da Nang possible, and a personal challenge, I'd like to thank the many people who made us possible, and I bid you good night and good night.
The Vietnam Regional Exchange has a favor to ask of you. When you make a purchase at the photo shop, the tailor shop, or get a haircut, please sign the cash control sheet. The cash control sheet is a record of the purchases made at that concession. It helps the PX and it benefits you. The money the PX takes in goes in part to provide welfare and recreational benefits for you. So please sign the cash control sheet and help make the job a little easier.
In stateside weather this evening, a fresh Pacific storm is spreading adverse weather over the Pacific Northwest. A vigorous storm centered in southern Washington is bringing gusty, windy, and cold, rainy weather southward into northern California. Wind gusts exceeding 50 miles an hour have been clocked over sections of Oregon. In contrast, a large high-pressure system over the Central Plains is bringing pleasant spring weather to the center of the nation. Temperatures rose into the upper 60s and lower 70s. Balmy 80-degree weather was common over the southwest states from interior southern California to southern Texas. And in the east, under sunny skies, temperatures returned to near seasonable normals. Da Nang's weather calls for partly cloudy skies, winds northerly at 8 to 12 knots. Our high today was 84 degrees. Our expected low tonight is 72. Our expected high tomorrow is 85 degrees. Relative humidity is at 70%, and our current temperature in Da Nang is 80 degrees. I'm Navy journalist Chief Swan on behalf of Marine Sergeant Jack Holsomback, wishing you a very pleasant evening.
This has been the AFVN Evening Report, a complete summary of news, weather, and sports, compiled from commercial and military news agencies. AFVN, Channel 11 Da Nang, and Channel 13, July.